welcome back to the Weekly Hijack. Sorry for the interruption from the weather. Well, it wasn't quite that bad, but it was.
We were delayed.
we were delayed because of the weather. Unfortunately, because of that means Brianna missed her Charlie episode that she was looking forward to, the Moth. Which this was a good episode. A little rough, a little rocky.
I see what you did there. I thought this was a really good episode.
It really is. It's a really good, again, a very character-focused episode, which you tend to get in the middle of the season. But we got Charlie's first flashback, serious hardcore flashback. And it's a really sad one.
It's a really sad one.
Actually, I mean, obviously Jack had a pretty sad flashback with losing his father too, but this is like the most tragic arc, it feels like.
It kind of just punches you in the gut at the end, where his brother's all like, happy family and cool sweater vest. And
after he had basically ruined his brother's life, like, repeatedly. Man, I don't have a lot of respect for Liam, honestly.
No. Liam just kind of cut his losses and run.
Basically.
He cares, but
he should have fought harder to keep Charlie from leaving again. He fought a little bit. It's like, hey, let's stay. Let's get you cleaned up. But, he probably should have been there for his brother, even in terms of, like, not running off to Australia for crying out loud.
Yeah.
If he was, I mean, I understand wanting to get away from that lifestyle, but
it's interesting. A lot of the time when we talk about lost, talk about daddy issues or whatever. That's very common. Mm-hmm. But it really is, almost everyone's working through the consequences of other people's sins in many ways.
There is a lot of that, yeah.
Because most people's problems are not things they necessarily call, at least not initially. I mean, they made choices. Like that was a big theme in this episode. You make choices. Right. Which is,
true.
And pretty common for Lost, you choose where you're going.
Mm-hmm. But it is a lot of reacting to other people's things. I mean, even Kate, I guess, because even though there's not a central figure, it was a certain thing that caused her going.
Yeah, her father
and mother, her mother never really forgave her for basically trying to.
Yeah, they're all working through how to deal with other people's problems along with their own. I mean, they have
along with their own. Yeah, that's true. Live together, die alone.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
And so the people on the island, they help each other as opposed to hurt each other generally.
Yeah, or try to.
Locke here shows his mentor Yoda, tough love Yoda.
Very tough love Yoda here. Michael is actually useful here, which is really refreshing.
I feel like Michael's one of those characters that had possibilities and they just didn't. Well, and then season 2. He got a whole different thing, and then that kind of wiped out any other possibilities.
Yeah, that's.
And I was just thinking, he never really. I mean, he gets a flashback, but it's not really his flashback. From what I remember, it's more Walt. Is it? I don't remember. I'm very vague on that.
The way I remember, Michael is another. The way I remember, Michael is another character who basically gets the shaft from a lot of people. His ex-wife, namely, was constantly like screwing him over.
And I thought it was interesting. The B story, the Sawyer story.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting one too because he's so multifaceted. Like he'll purposely peg someone, except then his expression afterward would be this very pitiable, like sad face.
Yeah,
and you're like, what is up with this guy?
Yeah,
he's much more complex than a character written like that normally is.
Very true. And each episode we can kind of see how they're setting up the character for the next episode. Yeah. Whoever the next episode's character is going to be about, and you can see that here too. And so you're just kind of playing off you think I'm garbage, so I'll act like garbage. Kind of.
If you didn't know more about the story, you'd think he was a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And every once in a while he has this little really sad face. You're like, what is that about? He said they're reading his book.
The fact that he reads books right away. I mean, that was a nice thing for the writers to put in. It kind of, for some reason, for Americans, it makes us think, oh, he's more than just a thug.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because what was he reading?
A Watership Down.
Watership Down,
which I've never read, but from what I understand, in Watership Down, others kidnap the bunnies or whatever that it's about.
The bunnies?
It's about bunnies.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like Animal Farm then?
I don't think like Animal. I've never read it. I've heard it's good. I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, I haven't read it either. But yeah,
Okay.
it's about rabbits.
It seems like there's a Killer Bunnies joke in there somewhere.
I will wait for season 3 for the Killer Bunny joke.
Oh my.
But yeah, no, because like the people who first saw this were probably very like, man, I can't stand that Sawyer guy. But he's one character that like I have a very hard time not liking, even when he is being very, sexist or whatever. Freckles, yeah. But
I don't really like this episode also because it had a lot of character stuff. And the flashback's very strong. It's very strong. And just thematically, it works very well. The Moth emerging thing works really well. I mean, it could be cheesy. I don't think it actually comes off. I think it comes off pretty well.
Yeah, the whole emerging from the shell. It's there. I mean, they don't draw. I mean, they go back to the Moth and see the Moth, but then the whole emerging thing,
it's just kind of there, and
it's there. Yeah, you could read it, then or someone could like. I could also see someone not seeing it and then pointing out and like, oh, that's pretty cool.
And it shows that Lost generally, especially the best episodes, but most episodes have multiple layers that are running.
Mm-hmm.
Connections are always being made between things, and if you're not paying attention, you might not catch it. And this story's so good, then you see connections. You're like, oh, like Michael just say they're Korean. You're like, if you hadn't seen other episodes, like okay, whatever. But suddenly there's like all this hidden stuff going on.
Speaking of Michael, what is going on between him and Sun? Because nothing ever comes of that, right? But they're always looking at each other.
No,
yeah, I feel like
I saw her the one time, half bathing, whatever. But it seems like there's something there, but they never did anything, right?
I think there were hints of it, and I think it just never quite
happened. But it does feel like they were leaving potential breadcrumbs for like an affair or something. I don't know what that was about.
It seems like there's a little bit more that happens there. Nothing big, but I feel like there does a little extra scene. But I could be wrong. I could be completely misremembering.
I don't know. I mean, Jin goes with Michael on the raft.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think they finally become friends. It seemed like there was become friends.
They bonded at some point. But yeah, the weird looks are just random. It's weird. It's like, let's have a Twilight moment.
And we had our You All Everybody full band.
Yeah. Isn't there like a longer version somewhere though?
I don't know.
I thought I remember seeing like some fan put together a music video version of like all the different clips of them
or
singing.
Maybe there's a bonus thing.
Oh, it could be it's a bonus thing. Maybe they did it.
I don't remember. We'll have to see.
Is the diaper scene in another episode or is that a bonus?
No, that's another scene.
I can't wait for that. So
that's
funny.
terrible.
It's so funny.
All right, anyone else?
Oh, one other thing. I thought it was interesting. What do you guys think? Was the cave-in just random or island magic? The only reason I ask is because I thought it was interesting that the cave-in happens, and I was thinking over when we didn't have Weekly Hijack, we were always talking about Jacob and Esau, but the island itself also is a character. I mean, the island does stuff separate from those two. And then it was very interesting. That happened right before, I think it was right after Saeed and Kate are talking about, we shouldn't have been able to land without dying. Our plane crash was impossible. I just thought it was an interesting thing to happen straight after that.
That's interesting. Well, is that immediately after? There's some arguments between Jack and Charlie there, but
I mean, like the next scene is
not too long. Yeah. No, that's
and it was probably just accidental, but it occurred to me.
No, it's because I wondered too. Like from a writing standpoint, it sounds like it happens. It seems like it happens right after Charlie says, "I'm a rock god."
Yeah,
and then rocks fall.
Yeah,
irony.
Irony, exactly.
But it could also be an interesting the island challenging Charlie, and I mean, I don't know.
Well, because you have Locke later on. If you want to make this argument, like if I was writing an essay about it, you have Locke in the same episode talking about struggle is nature's way of making you improve for the Moth getting out. Yeah, and it's almost like the island's forcing people to encounter things.
It's possible.
Again, I don't think it's a necessary reading, but I think there's enough that if you were writing an English paper, you could probably argue.
Probably, you can argue a lot in English papers.
Well.
But okay, well that's the Moth.
That's the Moth.
Next up, we've got
Confidence Man,
the first Sawyer episode. Okay, what did you just say there, Nick?
why is every episode great?
And then you said,
and there's iconic scenes like every episode.
well, it does help in a sense that they don't have as much baggage to deal with. Like, so in a sense, you get a new short story every week with these. But Sawyer's story is another hard one.
Yeah, it's a tragic story.
Yeah, this episode was hard to watch at times. The torture and
the first part,
and gore.
Yeah,
the first torture scene.
Yeah, there's not that many in Lost, but this one is one of the most
Well, you didn't know anything about Saeed doing that before.
No, that's true.
Good setup for next. I assume next episode is his.
Mm-hmm. And it is fascinating for an episode. Confidence, man, it just kind of shows just how much Sawyer puts on the mask of confidence to hide how much he's hurting. I mean, he hurts throughout pretty much the entire series. Yeah. Like, the only time he's really happy is when he gets to hang out with Juliet for 3 years. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. We've been having to say spoiler alert?
Not really, but it's it's so far down the line.
It's another episode of just lies all over the place.
Yeah. And
very clever. I mean, because they set you up at the beginning that, they read the letter.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm Sawyer, and I caused
this pain, this
pain to another family. Uh-huh. And so the whole time you're seeing the flashback, you think you're seeing that unfold.
Right.
And then you realize, wait, and it goes wrong, and you're like, wait, what's happening? Mm-hmm.
And you do kind of wonder, there may have been cases where he did go through with the scheme.
Oh, yeah, he certainly had before, I think.
Right. But it's just, it's amazing how much pain he brings onto himself, because of that. I mean,
yeah. Well, I love when, Kate asks, where is it? And he's like, I don't have it. She's like, what?
Yeah, who would do that?
Who would put you? What? You just suffered torture trying to defend something you don't have?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Random note: you see, the inhaler is found in season 6 in an episode.
6.
Is it really?
Yeah, they just wandered to the jungle. They pick it up one time. They're like, "Oh, this must be her inhaler."
I vaguely remember that.
I've watched season 6 relatively recently. So.
Yeah.
How can you remember that?
This was a Damon Lindelof episode.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to know if his episodes have more lies than most of them. I don't know.
It's an interesting question. It's
because I think we talked in that Locke's one hit Saeed over the head.
Okay.
We don't know that, but if true, when he's talking to Saeed, he's like, someone must be wanting to keep you on the island, and Sawyer seems to be a good guy.
Yeah, he's trying to misdirect, and it works for a bit. Saeed, he plants the idea in Saeed's mind, and Saeed eventually kind of goes with it.
The interesting thing is, the audience probably believes it, and then they get to the end, and he doesn't have it, and you would have to think back, and be like, wait a second. So Locke's thing doesn't make any sense either. Who is it?
Yeah.
You might have bought halfway into it.
Mm-hmm. But we don't really remember for sure if it was Locke or not.
No, that's my memory, but it could be wrong.
I mean, it is entirely... Natasha, you thought it might be Rousseau, right?
Yeah, but then I think the first time... I don't know, because now he's going to go down the beach and meet her, but I'm not sure that...
So we'll have to keep it up to date if we find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of nice to have something we're still kind of in the dark about.
And we get a great peanut butter scene with...
Mm-hmm. Well, thank goodness for that. You needed some more lighthearted moments in this episode.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal episode.
It really was. I mean...
And you get some of that Florida... because they tease, especially earlier on, about this Florida flies descending to being savages, and then, we can really play against that in this episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many just great moments of, like the first time the second time Jack confronts Sawyer by the waterfall, and he starts punching the guy, and Sawyer's just kind of egging him on, and Jack's like, I can't do that. He's not ready to he can't bring himself to the point yet of, just basically exhorting him for, beating him up.
It's amazing how many different themes you have in one episode. I mean, and that, I sense that with Moth, and thematically there's lots of things. But this one, you got the self-hate and the becoming the thing you're hunting, and then you got the Lord, or we're descending to madness, And then even the little bit of Saeed of his past coming back, and there's just a lot of stuff playing in what episode 8 of the series.
Yeah, is the next episode a Saeed episode?
I think they set it up. It almost has to be.
It feels like it would be Saeed next. I mean, interesting. Really, there's actually not very much Locke in this. Just that one scene you pointed out.
They cycle through the characters really well, actually.
They do. They really do.
Which is, I mean, a hard job, I think, when you have that many characters. But at least in this season, you feel like you're always seeing characters every couple. I mean, honestly, if you're really watching it once a week,
right?
Like it was aired, you'd be like, but what about this person?
Right. And speaking of peanut butter, this is an episode that really kind of cemented the Charlie and Claire relationship. I mean, they had played with it before, but Charlie kind of got sidetracked with Locke and drugs and other things. But
well, and if you hadn't before, you got the not good Sawyer, Kate, triangle going. Her appeal towards he's always conflict between being good and being bad. I mean, that's kind of her.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is the first time too that Kate finally felt compassion for Sawyer. At the very end, up until now, she'd always been just kind of whatever, ignoring him completely. And then this one was the first time. I think it's interesting. Sawyer had sensed a connection connection with the two. But I think afterwards it was the first time Kate first realized that they did kind of share some things in common, like this past that they're both ashamed of, kind of thing. So heavy stuff. Do you guys have anything?
Still learning.
Still learning. Yep.
And then we had our first Hurley joke about not losing weight on the island.
Poor Hurley.
Yeah, poor Hurley. But I think
big guy.
I think we got a Saeed episode coming up next, and then I don't remember who's after that. So
we're cycling through most people.
I feel like there's someone else before we get to Hurley's thing. Maybe in a second Jack episode or something.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We will see. So anyway, I think that's all for tonight.
Yep, for our Weekly Hijack.
For Weekly Hijack. Thanks for listening. Of course, you can listen to this find us at derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com.
You can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher.
And leave us a comment. There's comments available on the Weekly Hijack page. Yeah, it's for the whole page. But go for it. Leave a comment there if you like. And until then, we'll see you next time. This has been Tim.
This has been Nick.
Adios.
Bye.